screen. I'm mostly just going to do like a brief talk about Tolentino at this point, because we read one chapter of hers, and we're still getting used to her. So this, this is still sort of like a, hey, how you doing, Gia Tolentino? I'm reading your book now. And so here's things that I think you should start noticing about Gia Tolentino's writing. And when you start to notice these things, her writing will make a lot more sense. One thing is that if you notice her structure is very clear, right? She does really similar to what we do in our college essays. And I think because she has that sort of academic background is why she does that. But she tells us exactly what she's going to talk about, right? Sometimes she starts it off with a little narrative or whatever, but she tells us exactly what she's going to talk about. Then she sets up those claims and provides evidence throughout the essay, and she gives us a lot of evidence. One thing you should really notice about Tolentino is the breadth of research that she's doing. She's often looking at literature and technology and film and media and social networks and experts in anything from, bar method aerobic style classes to Lululemon, right, to literature. She's really looking at sort of how our culture, right, our broader culture is a network, right, is a network of things. So she has to use those variety of sources, and she's thorough. If you feel like you're reading her and it's starting to read like, I don't know, a bibliographic list of stuff that she's telling you to read, that's not uncommon, right? If she's mentioning all these authors and you are like, I have no idea who she's talking about, that's not uncommon. And actually, if anything, that should encourage you to look up some of those readings, right? I know initially, like with Tim Wu and with Rebecca Solnit, there are some that she mentions that I have you read on your own. But I it would be cruel of me to make all of those readings, part of our curriculum. It would just take way too long. But if she mentions something from a writer and you go, that's a cool idea, right? This Irving Goffman sort of, performative identity, right? Or Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, like, this seems really cool. I love this idea, or I want to know more about this. Do that research, right? Do that sort of cursory research. Find an ebook, get it on Kindle, order it used on half.com or eBay, right? Like, access it through the Fullerton College Library website. I don't know why I didn't say that first. But check it out, right? Check it out, because that's going to help you to further understand some of the stuff she's talking about. Do you have to be an expert on Tolentino? No. You have to read along. You have to grapple, right? If you don't understand all of it, you're not going to fail the class. That's the nature of learning, right? Is that challenge, right? That sense of being challenged. So, if you don't get everything Tolentino's talking about, do your best. Keep trucking along. But if there are things that your eye or your mind are drawn to, and you start homing in on those things, that is not a bad place to start. And those things that you want to focus on in terms of what she talks about overall with identity and society and culture, and the self, right? If you start to notice that you're homing in on some of these things, or even more specific things, that's great. You don't have to tackle everything she talks about. That's the other thing. So structure being one thing to really focus on. Two, the research that she does, because now we're entering into the phase of doing the research essay. And one thing that I think Tolentino does really well is provide us with, again, an impressive amount of outside source work that she's done, right? Of research that she's done for this text. Again, to someone who's at the 100 level, this may seem a little overwhelming, but this is the academic environment that we are becoming a part of, right? That 2,000-year-old rhetorical tradition that I've talked about since the beginning of class. you know, and she's been writing a long time. So do you have to write exactly like her, you know, anything like that? No, but these are some of the, you know, pros. These are the Barry Bonds and the Mark McGuires. I know that's a tired, old, faded reference, but you know, these are the heavy hitters of rhetoric in our current society. So keep that in mind. So her structuring, her her research, her acknowledgement and addressing of counter arguments, and sort of how she balances her perspective, I think are also important to look at and consider when you are perhaps critiquing or evaluating her argument yourself. Again, homing in on those things that you're familiar with, like she talks about, a little bit about Harry Potter. She talks a little bit about the Hunger Games, right? I'm sure like so many of us when we were at whatever age read some of those books, or maybe just watch the movies. But, you know, those things you notice, home in on those, see what she's saying about them, see what piques your interest or questions you have. Let's see. Just gonna look at Tolentino real quick and make sure that we're not forgetting anything. Let's see. I'll also think about the personal anecdotes that she shares, right? What we know about her, thinking about appeals to ethos, pathos, and logos, right? Who is she? What has she done? Where's she from? What's her job? Does she have credibility to speak on this? How does she utilize her audience's emotions to persuade them to a particular feeling or point? Where are her appeals to your reason, right? Not just facts and data and statistics like some people think that logos is, but your ability for critical thought and reasoning. How does she do that, right? So I think all of these things will help. And everything else we've been talking about in Lunsford, right? In terms of arguments of fact, arguments of definition, invitational arguments, the Toolman model, right? Like apply everything we've been doing, because this is going to be this one's going to be sort of the final text, right? The main final text that we write our last 2 essays on, ideas from this, right? You don't have to write on the whole thing, nor can you, because you can't fit however many hundred of pages of this into 6 to 8 pages. It's impossible. So what I'm going to tell you is start homing in on ideas that pique your interest from this. Concepts that you can glom onto in a comfortable and relatable way, or even stuff that challenges you and you want to learn more about. So think about that. So that's all I have to say about Tolentino for right now. Look at the discussion boards, because the questions I ask in the discussion boards give some stuff away, right? Like they help you to sort of generate these ideas. So if you're feeling lost at the T4s, again, write the T4, do what you can, and then consider what I'm asking at the discussion board level. Read other people's discussion board posts, read other people's T4s. It's not just for you to get the points for the assignment. Again, this is supposed to mimic the discussions we have in class. So if you're not hearing other perspectives, your understanding of argument and of rhetoric is incredibly limited. So make sure you're reading everyone's discussion board posts. I think that's integral to your understanding of this text. And I also already have one Teach the class that's partially devoted to Tolentino, the one on Young, Wu, and Tolentino. So you may want to review that and then come back to this and come back to your reading. And always email or Zoom me questions if and when you have them. I haven't even started on the midterms yet, so someday they'll happen. As you can tell, I look how I feel, or I feel how I look is what I'll say. But I hope everyone is having a wonderful break again for my spring 2020 class, and just a wonderful life if this is a later class. And I will see you in cyberspace soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, and Bye.